At the time, I didn't know like how much it was going to affect the rest of my life.
Christy Bogart lives by a strict regime of injections and food tracking and has since she was 11.
I was in 5th grade. I was 11, and we were dissecting owl pellets. And the phone, like in the classroom, rang, and like the teacher answered it. And she told me that I had to go. My parents picked me up, and they took me to like this doctor. Like they didn't really explain like what was going on. They just like took me to this doctor, and they tested like my blood sugar, and like normal ranges for blood sugar is between like 70 and like 120, and mine was like 500 something.
Christy is a film major at Towson and a dedicated dorm RA who is living with a life-threatening illness that only affects 0.25% of the population under age 20.
They were like, yeah, you need to go to the like hospital like right away. I was in the hospital for 3 days, and I remember like being there thinking like I don't really know what's happening.
In late spring, her parents noticed a sudden change in Christy's weight and her unquenchable thirst. After a series of tests, on May 31st, 2005, Christy was diagnosed with diabetes.
I have type 1, which is what like children get diagnosed with, and it's just where your pancreas decides to not work anymore, and so it stops producing insulin.
Christy soon learned that managing type 1 diabetes is constant work and a lifelong commitment.
I have to check my blood sugar levels before I eat, and then I have to like think about how many carbs I'm going to have and whatnot with each meal.
Christy has to constantly carry with her the medications and precautionary tools she needs to ensure she stays healthy, including needles, insulin, and testing strips, all of which are used to both keep track of and regulate the insulin in her body.
So this is my glucose meter. This like keeps track of what my blood sugar is every time I test it. And then this is my insulin that I take every time I eat a meal or have a snack. And then this is my 24-hour insulin.
Though her parents had prepared her for taking care of her diabetes when she was younger, living on her own with the disease has been challenging at times.
One night I woke up and my blood sugar was incredibly low. And I was just like sitting there and I was shaking. And I kind of had like a cold sweat, and it was like kind of harder for me to move in a way. I woke my roommate up, and I was like, hey, like you need to help me right now.
Though diabetes is a huge part of her life, Christy is determined to not let it affect her any more than it has to.
My dream job is to work in a control room for like live TV. And I don't know why, but I'm just like drawn to the whole like high stress, like you only have one shot to get this right. Last January, my friends and I went to New York, and I convinced them to wake up at 5 a.m. to go stand outside the Today Show. And it was only like 6 degrees outside, so we were basically the only people there. And we were like standing there, and I started talking to this guy who was like working, and because I didn't know what his like job was and whatever. And so we were like talking, and I like told him how like I'm majoring in film, like I want to work in TV and stuff like that. He took us into the control room, and when I was in there, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do.
The Today Show is a daily live broadcast filmed at Rockefeller Center in New York City for NBC. It's been airing since 1952 and has maintained its status as number 2 on the air for morning news and entertainment for years.
The producer that I met that day, we're close now, him and I, we follow each other on Twitter. And I think it's good to have connections like in this industry because you never know. He could help me out and get me a job someday.
Christy's future plans have the potential to impose risks on her health.
Long-term stress and stuff like that can, if you're not watching your blood sugar levels, it can really like alter them, and then you could like continuously have highs, and then that's not good because that leads to other problems. I feel like I live as normal of a life as anyone who doesn't have diabetes.